Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take another look here at Bitcoin, see kind of what's going on, and obviously identify the next steps. Now, it's going to be hard to extract a lot of information here today, honestly, just based on the fact that it's been pretty much going straight sideways, but we can kind of also understand how that's working in the big picture. Okay, I'll explain more about that here in a moment. If you're new to the channel, not a financial advisor, just love teaching people how to trade. I hope you can learn something here today. I have a trading community / signal group / academy, the whole 9 yards to get you off to a good start. So hopefully you can check that out. CryptoCache.tech is the website. The website is slightly incomplete for the moment, but it is going to be fully built later this month with market data, etc. It's going to be an awesome experience. But for now, obviously you've got access to the academy, signals, and the private chat groups, etc. All right, so taking a look here, of course, at Bitcoin, some things we got to understand first and foremost is that 42,000 is a pretty strong area of contention here. In other words, 42,000 has effectively been tested 3 days in a row. Now that's not bad nor good. Oftentimes you test a resistance level, it's more likely to break to the upside than the downside, right? That's usually the case. But again, Bitcoin has proven previously multiple occasions where if we cannot break through a strong resistance level, the price comes down, okay? So I just want you to be cautious here. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. I think the odds are likely more so in the favor that Bitcoin is going to increase from here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a small pullback between now and the next leg up. What I mean by that is we have a CME gap that actually needs to be filled. So oftentimes when that occurs, the price will correct itself, which is going to be probably closer to about 40,000, 40,500, and then we'll see that next leg up. Okay. So again, that's just kind of something that's happening on Friday. So just be mindful of that. And then of course, leading into that, we could see again, some more consolidation closer to this resistance. But for the moment, why don't we just go ahead and look at some of the indicators instead of speculating, right? What we're seeing here, of course, is the 50-day simple moving average potentially working as a resistance. It's going to slowly average itself out down to 42,000. Once we get above that, that'll be a very, very strong step in the right direction. I think that'll help us a lot. Obviously, I prefer to be somewhere in the 50,000 range for like absolute confirmation that Bitcoin's back on track. But this would be a really good start, right? Somewhere in the range of 42,000 or higher, maybe even 43, because obviously it's trending right around 42.8 at the moment. Okay. But again, it'll take a few days likely to get there, or once it legs up, we need to make sure that if it goes to that point, that 50-day SMA, we wait a little bit longer and ensure we have confirmation above that level, right? And I know you probably get tired of hearing me say wait for confirmation, but that's literally the best thing that you can do as a trader, right? Now, there's obviously one-offs for everything. It's not foolproof, but for the most part, waiting for confirmation of one day, I think is probably the most beneficial thing you could do for yourself. And here's some great consolation here, of course. We're well above 50 on the RSI, right? And that's something that we've already identified previously, but we didn't have that confirmation above. Because the very first day it peaked above, it's like, okay, great, this is all well and good, could come back down. It didn't get rejected by a 50, now that's effectively going to be a support level, right? And if you see that, that is fairly synonymous with 40,000 on the price action. So the likelihood of the price coming down to 40,000 and bouncing is quite high, at least if it were to come down that low. We don't know that that's going to happen yet, but once again, that CME gap, etc., I think we are likely to see the price come down a little bit. Just a natural correction, but I wouldn't expect it to come crashing down to 33,000. I think that likelihood is dissolving, right? I think 33 was probably the likely bottom here for Bitcoin, at least in the immediate near future, okay? Once again, we'll see here soon, of course, how things play out. There's obviously, more news that's going to roll out as it always does, and we just got to be prepared for that. Those are things we can't control. But in the sense here, what you can control is your emotions and making sure that you're not, emotionally investing. And in this scenario here, I don't really see, a dramatic increase from here, of course. There's really no purpose or likelihood of that happening. I want it to happen. I think it's definitely going to happen eventually soon. But once again, as per usual, we need to build more volume at this level and ensure that we have a good foundation. Because there's a tremendous amount of resistance above the price action right now. And it's important to acknowledge that, right? Again, we have this little gap here, for lack of better terms, right? Not to be confused with the CME gap, but between 38.8 and 40,000, there's literally very, very low volume. That's extremely low volume. So you got to understand, with there being not a lot of volume at the, below the price action here, at least the immediate bottom, if you will, then we have a situation where it could potentially, I wouldn't say we're going to lose that support, but once again, we need to build a stronger foundation of volume before we can leg up. That's usually how it works. Again, no guarantees, but that's what we're looking at here, at least within the last month's worth of trading data as a close approximate. Okay, so let's look at the 4-hour chart here, kind of see what's going on. I think with the moving averages, we are below. Yep. So both moving averages are below the price action. So this is a very good sign. We've got a potential, golden cross coming up on the 4-hour. I don't put, again, a tremendous amount of weight on that. I think the 1-day chart is probably the most effective golden cross that you could expect or anticipate, but this is kind of like a secondary, like nice little constellation letting us know that we've got two wonderful moving averages below the price action, and that's a good sign. So if the price were to come down, just say for example, closer to 40, I would absolutely consider buying that dip. I do think 40,000 would probably be the likely immediate lowest point that we're going to see. We might see a candle wick down a little bit lower to 38.8 or 38.5. There's a chance of that. But I don't think it's going to break that plane, so to speak, just based on the way that things are shaping up here. Okay, again, that's just kind of generally what we're looking at there overall in the big picture. That being a key level Fibonacci retracement line. All right, so that's kind of what the 4-hour is looking like. Another thing to note too, and this is something that I'm happy to see, is the RSI is starting to calm down a little bit. Now it hasn't broken 70 yet, right? So I don't love that, but I in time, if we just go straight sideways from here, it'll continue to come down. But anytime you see an RSI up over 70, I wouldn't say it's a cause to just go ahead and immediately sell. That's not the idea. The idea is to evaluate everything and understand what's going on first of all, right? That's why we look at the 1-day chart and etc. But in this scenario here, traditionally speaking, when the RSI comes back down under 70, that's a case in point where you might want to consider selling or trimming your position. Okay, because right now Bitcoin's in profit for a lot of people if you bought any one of the dips in the recent past, right? And if so, then you might want to consider, taking some profit, or perhaps, understand the same thing for some altcoins as well. Every situation is obviously different in that scenario because we have some that are taking off, some that are kind of staying stagnant. But for the most part, RSI, where it's at right now, I don't love it still because it still feels overextended. But it's still over 70 because of how hard it increased. 11% in 1 day, that's a significant increase. And now that we're building this foundation of volume here at 41,500 roughly, that's a very good sign. It's getting more volume at that price point, and that's going to reaffirm the fact that we shouldn't expect the price just to drop from here. But the one thing that remains true is we do have a MACD divergence here coming up soon. Basically just means that the bulls are losing control, and then there could be more selling pressure in the immediate future, right? So that's what leads me to also to believe that we could see a slight decline to 40,000, 40,500. I think that's fairly likely. So, wouldn't be terrible to put some profit targets, or correction, some DCA targets, for example, or just say a, potential long position right around 40,000. That's kind of my goal, is to kind of go ahead and get filled around 40,000 and to try to take, a leg up to 41, 42, etc. Okay, that's generally the idea. But just bear in mind, again, that CME gap for Friday, we could expect that gap to get filled if the price continues to go sideways as is. Moving on to the Ichimoku Cloud, no buy signals here. This basically tells us if we want to consider a long or short position, that neither are viable at the moment because we don't have a good indication of one way or the other, right? In other words, if you had a long position, the lagging span is intersected with the price action hours ago, and you should have closed your position by now, or at least taken some profit, right? And then of course the inverse applies as well too, because obviously the price hasn't even touched the cloud yet. So until the price is successfully underneath the cloud, say the cloud were to kind of continue to do one of these, and then the price kind of breaks down, that's a case in point where you want to consider a short position, right? That's the general idea. Again, there's more moving parts. We want to look at everything at that point. I'm not saying you want to short as soon as it's 40,000. Just in general, we don't have that kind of signal right now that we want to do a short or a long based on the cloud. And the cloud is a conservative indicator. That's all there is to it. If you're more of a, I wouldn't say gambling type, but if you're you want to let it ride and see what happens, move your stop loss up. That's all well and good. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to close your position. But if you were to, you might be able to maximize your profits if the price comes back down, right? That's where Ichimoku is nice. It's going to make sure that you get in and out when the momentum is still in your favor. Okay, so this basically told us that the bulls are in control, and now they've tentatively lost control. Not to say that it's over or it's done with or it can't increase. It's just saying that the potential of a shift in momentum is higher now, right? We saw in the MACD, we're about to see a divergence. Do you really think that it's just going to just bounce and come right back up? It could, right? That's the thing. We never truly know, but in most cases it doesn't, right? And again, we just got to stack things in our favor here. And at this point, the longer the price point stays right here, the more likely we are to see a reversal. Okay, and it's not going to be a significant reversal. I highly doubt we're going to see something down to 36,000, 37, or even 38. I do think 40,000 is realistic though in the near future. Just to get that natural healthy correction, that staircase pattern where the price, comes up, down, and then continues up again, right? That's what we want to see. So again, everything is hypothetical for the moment because right now the whales are not in the office for the most part. We're not seeing a significant amount of manipulation. We did see that actually here today. If you look at the, what is it? Even the 1 minute chart, look at that candle wick there. We got a sharp increase in volume, but an immediate sell-off, right? So 42 is still holding as a strong sell wall. Nobody really wants to allow the price to go past that just yet. So that tells me we could see the price come down as well, just based on Bitcoin's history of strong resistance levels. Like we saw this right here, right at about 51,000. It would not let the price pass. Hypothetically, we could have another one of those scenarios here if we get 2 or 3 more days worth of candlesticks closing. Okay, another thing to consider as well, and these aren't quite doji candles, but they're close. When you have a lot of doji candles in a row, it's a state of indecision. Oftentimes it's signaling a reversal. Okay, so again, there's no guarantees that it's going to turn around and come down, but I think the likelihood is much higher. I would say, if I were to guess, statistically speaking, 70% likelihood the price were to retrace a little bit down to 40. And then possibly, again, there's that 30% shadow of a doubt. The price could continue upwards because it has that momentum and it does feel like it wants to take off. All right, so you be the judge. You let me know what your thoughts are. If you want to comment below and give me an idea of where you think the price is going to go, because it's an interesting scenario at all times. But I'm feeling like 40,000 is in the cards here in the near future. And if so, I think that's going to be a great place to consider taking some positions. And I think at that time, I'm gonna feel much more confident and comfortable with opening a lot more signals. So again, if you're not part of my community already, consider joining. Of course, I send out signals for every single trade that I take, and I also have a private chat group. Of course, we have roundtable discussions. But more importantly, I have a trading academy I think would work very well for you if you are newer to trading. So you get the fundamentals, the foundation of how to become a better trader and build on it. A lot of us are trying to jump to the end of the race when half of all the knowledge that's going to be learned is in the beginning of your trading journey, right? So if you're new to trading, I've been trading for over 15 years. I can tell you I've beat my head against the wall multiple times, and it's just not worth it anymore. You got to remove emotion. You got to have a really good risk tolerance, and you got to know exactly what you're doing. And I think I've got it down to a pretty good science. So hopefully we look forward to getting to know you better. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.